You know, there's a quiet truth that has been waiting for you all along. The child you once were never left. That younger version of you is still here, watching, whispering, sometimes trembling in fear, sometimes glowing with hope. And today, right now, I want us to sit together and listen to that voice, not as a memory of something long gone, but as a living frequency that still vibrates in your body. Because when you truly face your younger self, you are not simply reminiscing, you are stepping into a quantum shift within your very consciousness. Think of it this way: every scar, every wound you carry, visible or hidden, is not proof of weakness. It's evidence that you've walked through fire and emerged. Still breathing, still moving. The world may have taught you to label those scars as damage, but your younger self sees them as sacred marks, the way the rings of a tree carry the memory of every storm. And just like a tree, you didn't break. You grew. You expanded. You kept reaching for light, even when the night was heavy. Now here's where it becomes even more powerful. Science tells us that every cell in your body has been replaced many times since you were a child. And yet, the emotional imprint remains. The fears, the hopes, the questions, they linger because consciousness doesn't follow the same rules as matter. Your younger self is not just an echo from the past. They are woven into the fabric of your present. Their energy influences the way you breathe, the choices you make, and even what you believe is possible. When you stop running from that child, when you turn back and embrace them with compassion instead of judgment, something remarkable happens. You are not just healing old pain. You are rewriting the energetic blueprint of your life. You are changing your vibration. And your vibration decides what you attract, what doors open, what relationships feel safe, what opportunities appear. Most of us spend years trying to bury our younger selves under layers of improvement, of perfection, of pretending. But healing doesn't happen in rejection. It happens in integration. Close your eyes for a moment and notice your body. Maybe there's a tightness in your chest or a heaviness in your stomach. That isn't a flaw to be fixed. That's communication. That's your younger self trying to be heard. And when you pause long enough to feel it, to breathe into it, you build a bridge between past and present. That's what coherence really is, when every part of you, across time, is finally moving in the same direction. Without coherence, your energy fragments. One part of you is racing forward. Another is frozen in yesterday. And then you wonder why change feels so hard, why you keep repeating the same patterns. But when the child and the adult finally stand on the same team, the story changes. You stop operating from lack and begin to live from wholeness. You no longer chase external validation because you recognize your worth was never negotiable. You stop seeking permission to exist because you realize existence itself is permission. That's what true freedom feels like, not the absence of challenges, but the presence of integration. And here's something even deeper. When you bring love to your younger self, you're not just transforming your own life, you're interrupting generations of inherited pain. The fear of your grandmother, the silence of your father, the burden of your mother. These invisible threads often weave themselves into us without question. But when you turn toward the child within you and say, "You are safe now, you are loved now," you become the pattern breaker. You stop the cycle. The healing doesn't just ripple through your body, it reverberates through your lineage, through the collective field of consciousness itself. This isn't abstract poetry. It's quantum reality. Consciousness operates like a field, and your emotions broadcast a frequency into that field. Shame collapse possibility. It narrows your vision. It convinces you that certain futures are out of reach. But compassion expands the field. Love expands the field. Suddenly, pathways you never saw before begin to appear. Doors you thought were locked begin to open. It isn't that life suddenly rewards you. It's that you've stopped vibrating at the frequency that once repelled your own blessings. And so I invite you, as you listen now, to whisper inwardly, I see you. Younger me, I'm bringing you home. This isn't just a sentimental phrase, it's a declaration, a conscious signal sent into the quantum field that you are ready to end the war within yourself. It's the act of calling back the fragments, of retrieving what you once abandoned. And in that moment, shame begins to dissolve. The constant whisper that you're not enough begins to soften. And what's left is the simple but unshakable truth: you were always whole. Even in the breaking, you were whole. Even in confusion, you were complete. Don't imagine that this work is linear, or that you'll arrive at a final, polished version of yourself. Integration is not about perfection. It's about relationship, an ongoing dialogue with the part of you that never stopped waiting to be acknowledged. Some days, that child will feel restless. Other days, peaceful. But always, they are guiding you back to authenticity, back to the raw, unedited version of yourself that knew how to laugh without caution, to cry without shame, to dream without asking for permission. And as you honor them, something else returns. The creativity you thought was lost, the confidence you thought was broken, the openness you thought was stolen, none of it disappeared. It was simply waiting, quietly, for you to come back. So take a deep breath with me right now. Inhale, and feel that child in your chest. Exhale, and let them know you're here, that you're not running anymore. Because every time you choose presence over avoidance, compassion over judgment, love over fear, you create a ripple not just in your life, but in the world around you. And in that ripple, others find permission to do the same. This is how we change reality. Not by forcing, not by striving, not by endlessly trying to fix what was never truly broken, but by remembering, by integrating, by allowing. That is, the quantum shift your younger self has been waiting for you to make. 1. The strength hidden in wounds. There is something quietly sacred about the places where we've been broken. We often grow up believing that wounds are evidence of failure, as though every scar is a mark of shame. But when you step back and look deeper, you realize that every wound is a story of survival, of endurance, of a spirit that refused to collapse even when everything seemed unbearable. Think for a moment about the times you've fallen. Maybe it was a heartbreak that left you gasping for breath. Maybe it was the loss of someone you loved, or the heavy silence of loneliness that sat on your chest like a stone. In those moments, it felt like too much, like life had asked for more than you could possibly give. And yet, here you are. You carried yourself through the fire, step by trembling step, and you arrived here, listening to these words. That alone is proof of a strength you might not even see in yourself. The world often teaches us to hide our wounds, to patch them up quickly, cover them with smiles, and pretend we were never touched by pain. But wounds are not stains to be concealed. They are thresholds. They are doorways you were pushed through, sometimes unwillingly, that reshaped you in ways comfort never could. A life without breaking points would be like a river that never met a rock-shallow prey, untested and easily diverted. But the river that learns to carve through stone becomes deeper, more powerful, more unstoppable. I want you to remember that your mistakes are not verdicts. They are not the final word on who you are. They are maps. Each so-called failure is a redirection, a recalibration, guiding you toward the place you stand now. The moment you begin to see your missteps, not as condemnation but as navigation, you step into freedom. You understand that nothing was wasted, that even the darkest detours were preparing you for light you could not have comprehended before. Imagine your life as a mosaic. Every fragment, the jagged shards of heartbreak, the dull pieces of regret, the polished stones of triumph all come together to create a pattern that could never exist without contrast. From up close, The broken pieces may look sharp and messy, but when you step back, you see the wholeness, the beauty that only emerges when the light shines through the cracks. And here's the truth. I had to learn the hard way. Resilience is not about never falling. Resilience is about what happens after the fall. It is about getting up slowly, even if your knees are shaking, and choosing to move forward anyway. It is about whispering to yourself, "I will try again," even when hope feels thin. That decision, repeated over and over, weaves a strength into your soul that no easy path could ever offer. When you begin to see your wounds as evidence of survival, something shifts. The heaviness of shame starts to lift. You stop punishing yourself for the scars you carry and start recognizing them as medals of a war fought in silence. In the quiet corners of your life, where no one was watching, they are not proof of weakness. They are proof of the fire you have walked through. This is where the wisdom of both inner philosophy and quantum understanding meet. Physics tells us that energy is never lost, only transformed. The same is true for your pain. The energy of those dark nights, those tears, those shattered moments, it didn't disappear. It transformed into resilience, into empathy, into the capacity to stand here today with a deeper heart. Your suffering was not for nothing. It became the soil in which your compassion grew. Perhaps you've noticed this in your own life. The people who carry real depth, the ones who touch you with their presence, are rarely those who've had it easy. They are the ones who have faced loss, who have walked through grief, who have broken open and allowed life to shape them. Their strength is not hard or brittle. It is soft, steady, and unshakable, like the roots of a tree that has learned to withstand storms. So the next time you look at your scars, I want you to see them differently. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" try asking, "What did this awaken in me?" Instead of resenting the pain, ask what wisdom it brought. Because often, what feels like the end of a story is actually the opening chapter of another one. You are not damaged goods. You are not defined by the moments you thought you couldn't survive. You are defined by the fact that you did survive. You're here. You kept breathing. You kept waking up. And every breath, every small step forward, was a declaration: I am still alive. I am still choosing. I am still here. And there's something even more profound. Your wounds, when embraced, become bridges to others. When you allow your story to be seen, when you stop hiding the fractures and instead speak from them, you give others permission to face their own. Your pain becomes medicine, not just for you, but for the people around you who are quietly carrying their own burdens. This is the paradox. What once broke you can become the very thing that heals others. The wound becomes the wellspring. The scar becomes the testimony. Your story becomes the proof that wholeness is possible, even after everything tried to scatter you. So, if you are listening right now and you feel weighed down by the past, remember this. You don't have to erase your wounds to become whole. You don't have to rewrite your story to deserve love. Every stumble was part of the dance. Every burn mark was part of the fire that forged you. And every tear watered the ground of your awakening. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are exactly where you need to be, carrying within you the quiet strength that only comes from walking through the valley and finding your way back into the light. 2. Listening to the body as a quantum doorway. So many of us were taught to treat the body as a machine, something to be managed, pushed, silenced, or ignored when it makes noise. But the truth is, your body is not malfunctioning when your chest tightens, when your throat closes, when your stomach knots. These are not random glitches. They are messages. They are the language of the younger self still living within you, speaking through sensation rather than words. Think about it. When you were a child and you felt fear, your body reacted before your mind could explain. Your heart raced, your palms sweated, Your throat burned with unshed tears. The body was always honest, even when the mind tried to deny, and that honesty never disappeared. It stayed with you, waiting for the moment you would pause long enough to notice. The body is a doorway, a quantum doorway into realities that the thinking mind cannot access. Why? Because the body is present. It doesn't dwell in yesterday, and it doesn't predict tomorrow. It only knows now. And healing, true healing, can only happen in the now. When you pause and allow yourself to feel that ache in your chest instead of pushing it away, something subtle shifts. You are no longer abandoning the child within. You are turning toward them. That tightness, that heaviness, is simply their way of saying, I'm still here. Please don't forget me. This is not about dramatizing pain. It's about listening to it. Imagine your body as a house with many rooms. For years, you may have locked certain doors, afraid of what was inside. But the locked rooms never disappeared. They've been waiting. Every knot in your stomach, every tremble in your hands, every inexplicable fatigue is that closed room knocking gently, asking to be seen. When you finally open the door, you discover it isn't a monster waiting there. It's your younger self, perhaps frightened, perhaps exhausted, but always longing for acknowledgement. And when you embrace them, the body relaxes. The chest softens. The throat opens. The stomach loosens. Because the message has been received. From a quantum perspective, this is not just emotional release. It is frequency alignment. Every sensation in your body is an energy pattern. When ignored, those patterns become dense, heavy, stagnant. But when honored, they begin to flow again. Energy reorganizes itself. What was once a blockage becomes a channel. And in that flow, your life shifts. 2. Relationships feel lighter. Choices feel clearer. Opportunities begin to appear, as if out of nowhere. I know how tempting it is to distract yourself, to reach for the phone, the food, the work, anything to avoid the discomfort. We've been trained to believe that feeling too much is dangerous, that emotions must be tamed like wild horses. But here's the truth. Your emotions are not enemies. They are signals. They are invitations. They are the compass pointing you back home. Let's make it simple. The next time your chest tightens with anxiety, instead of saying, "Something is wrong with me," try saying, "Something in me wants to be heard." Sit with that. Breathe into it. Place a gentle hand on your chest and whisper inwardly, "I'm listening." It might sound too simple, but in that act, you are doing something profound. You are creating coherence between your mind and your body, between the adult, you, and the child within. And what happens when coherence is restored? Your energy field stabilizes. You stop sending mixed signals into the quantum field. You stop living half in the past and half in the future. You become present, and presence is the only place where transformation can occur. I want you to see the body as more than flesh and bone. See it as a living antenna, constantly transmitting and receiving frequencies. When you ignore your sensations, you're ignoring half the conversation. But when you lean in, when you allow your body to speak, you're opening yourself to guidance that goes far beyond logic. For example, perhaps you felt an inexplicable heaviness around certain people, or a sudden lightness in others' presence. That is not random. That is your body, reading the energy field before your mind can catch up. It is the inner child, still attuned to subtle truth, whispering, "This is safe. This is not safe. This is expansive. This is draining." The body knows. The question is, are you willing to listen? There's an old saying that the body keeps the score, but I want to take it further. The body also holds the key. Every sensation is a doorway into deeper integration. Every ache is a request for compassion. Every trembling is a call back to presence. And when you answer those calls with gentleness instead of judgment, the body becomes an ally, a guide, a sacred compass pointing you toward wholeness. Think of rivers. When they are blocked, they don't disappear. They pool, they stagnate, they sometimes flood. But when the blockage is cleared, the river flows again, effortlessly, naturally. Your body works the same way. The knots in your stomach, the tightness in your throat, the ache in your heart, these are not signs of failure. They are invitations to clear the stones so that the river of your life can flow again, without struggle, without resistance. This is why listening to the body is such a radical act. It interrupts the habit of abandonment, the habit of leaving yourself when you most need your own care. When you sit with the sensation, when you breathe through it, when you listen, instead of escape, you are saying to your younger self, I will not abandon you again. And that changes everything. The fear softens, the shame dissolves, the body begins to trust you again. And in that trust, doors open not only within, but around you, because as within, so without, the coherence you build inside becomes the coherence you experience in the world. So the next time your body speaks through tightness, heaviness, or ache, I want you to pause. Don't fix it. Don't run from it. Just listen. That listening is the beginning of healing. That listening is the opening of the quantum doorway. And when you step through it with presence and compassion, you don't just heal your body. You align your entire being with the frequency of wholeness. 3. Love as the strongest field of energy. At the heart of every path to healing, there is always one constant love. Not the fleeting kind that depends on conditions or approval, but the quiet, steady field of energy that holds everything together. Love is not just an emotion. It is a vibration, a frequency, a living field that you can step into, embody, and broadcast. And when you do, everything begins to change. Science and spirit, in their own ways, are starting to agree on this. Physics tells us that every atom, every particle, is influenced by the field it exists within. Your body, too, is a field, a moving symphony of frequencies. When you send love into your past, into those fractured moments of your story, you aren't just being sentimental. You are literally reorganizing energy patterns in your cells. Biologists call it repatterning. Mystics call it returning to the self. In truth, it is both. Think about how your body feels when you are held in genuine love. The nervous system calms. The heart rate slows. Muscles enclenchent. It is as if every cell breathes a sigh of relief. Now imagine giving that same love not only to others, but to yourself, to the younger you who never received it, to the parts of you that still ache in silence. That is where transformation happens. Not because you erased the pain, but because you surrounded it with a frequency strong enough to hold it, to soften it, to transmute it. Love is the great alchemist. It does not deny the wound, but it changes the wound's meaning. It doesn't pretend the darkness never happened, but it brings light, so the darkness no longer defines you. Love says, yes, this happened, and yes, you are still worthy. Yes, you are still whole. When you practice this, when you send love backward in time, to the places you abandoned yourself, something extraordinary unfolds. That love reverberates forward into the present. The body feels safer, the mind softens, the spirit expands. It is as though the walls that once kept you trapped begin to dissolve, and suddenly, you have space to breathe, to grow, to live again. The power of love is not abstract. It is physical. Neuroscience shows that loving kindness changes brain chemistry, increasing serotonin and oxytocin, the hormones that foster trust and safety. At the same time, it lowers cortisol, the stress hormone that keeps you in survival mode. In other words, love changes the architecture of your biology. It rewires the nervous system from fear to openness, And beyond the biology, love shifts the field of consciousness itself. I want you to imagine for a moment, standing in front of your younger self, perhaps the child with wide eyes, trembling hands, or the teenager who felt unseen and misunderstood. Imagine looking at them and saying softly, "I love you." Not because you are perfect, not because you got everything right. I love you because you are me, because you survived, because you mattered then, and you matter now. Do you feel what happens in your chest as you picture that? Perhaps a loosening, a warmth, a heaviness lifting. That is the field of love activating within you. That is not imagination. That is energy shifting. Every cell listens to that declaration and begins to align itself with the frequency of safety, belonging, and worth. The world often teaches us that love must be earned, that it is conditional, fragile, easily withdrawn. But unconditional love, the love you give yourself, is unbreakable. It does not ask you to prove anything. It does not measure your worth. It simply reflects back the truth that was always there. You are already enough. You always were. From the quantum perspective, love expands the field of possibility. Shame collapses it. Fear narrows it. Judgment freezes it. But love opens doors that fear could never unlock. Love shifts the probabilities. It draws into your life people and opportunities that resonate with wholeness, because the field within you is finally coherent. And here is the miracle. You don't need to manufacture love. You don't have to force it or fabricate it. Love is your natural state. The frequency you were born into before the world taught you to contract. When you return to it, it feels less like achieving something new and more like remembering what was always yours. You may be wondering, how do I practice this? How do I step into that field of love when all I feel is pain? Start small. Place a hand on your chest and breathe. Whisper to yourself, "I'm here. I love you." At first, it might feel awkward or even unbelievable. That's okay. The field doesn't demand perfection. It only asks for sincerity. The more you repeat it, the more your cells recognize it as truth. Love is not an instant cure. It is not a magic trick that erases all wounds overnight. But it is the most enduring medicine, day by day, moment by moment. It shifts your frequency. It rewrites the patterns of survival into patterns of thriving. It dissolves the walls around your heart until you realize the walls were never necessary. And soon, you notice something. You laugh more freely. You cry without shame. You walk with a lighter step. You no longer carry the past as a burden, but as a tapestry woven with threads of both pain and love, each piece necessary for the beauty of the whole. When you send love to your past, you also send love to your future. You lay down a path of coherence, making it easier for the self you are becoming to walk with clarity and courage. Love is timeless. It stretches across the years like light across a horizon. And once you step into it, you realize it was never absent. It was always here, waiting for you to remember. So if you take one truth with you from this moment, let it be. This love is not the reward for healing. It is the path of healing itself. It is the strongest field you will ever know. And when you allow yourself to live within it, everything, your body, your mind, your relationships, your reality begins to align with the wholeness you were always meant to embody. 4. The quantum reality of the inner child. We often believe that the child we once were is gone, left behind in photo albums, memories, or old stories retold at family gatherings. But the truth is far more extraordinary. Your younger self is not just a figure of the past. They are alive in you, not as a memory, but as a living frequency. They exist as energy, woven into every breath, every decision, every belief you hold about yourself and the world. This is not metaphor alone. It is a quantum reality. Science tells us that matter and energy are never truly separate. Your cells, though they have been replaced many times since you were a child, still carry the imprint of every emotion, every experience, every conclusion you once made about life. It is as if the younger self encoded a blueprint into your energy field, a template of beliefs and patterns that continue to shape your reality today. Think of it this way: when you were young and felt unsafe, your body and mind created a story. I must be careful. The world is dangerous. I am not enough unless I do everything right. Those thoughts weren't just fleeting ideas. They collapsed possibilities into reality. Just as quantum physics shows that the act of observation creates form, the child within you was, in fact, a quantum observer shaping the trajectory of your adult life. With every conclusion, however incomplete, they drew. And here's the challenge: those conclusions were formed without the full picture. A child doesn't yet have the perspective, the wisdom, the broader understanding of life. They only know the intensity of the moment. Yet those moments became the architecture of your adult self. So now, décades later, you may still be living inside structures designed by a much younger version of you, walls built to keep you safe, rules created to win approval, patterns meant to ensure survival. This is why so many of us feel split inside. Part of us longs to move forward, to expand, to take risks. Another part clings tightly to fear, to shame, to the old script. That conflict is not a flaw. It's simply your younger self still speaking through you, still holding the vibration of the past, still waiting to be acknowledged. And here is where the quantum reality becomes miraculous. When you turn toward your inner child, not to reject them, not to silence them, but to embrace them with compassion, you literally shift the frequency of your entire being. You are rewriting the energetic template that has been running your life. The stories that once kept you small begin to dissolve. The vibrations that attracted the same painful cycles again and again begin to change. Imagine holding that child inside you and whispering, "You did your best. You were never broken. You were always enough." Those words are not just soothing, they are recalibrations. Every cell hears them. Every frequency responds. You are transmitting love into the field of your own consciousness. And the field responds by reorganizing itself. What once felt fixed becomes fluid. What once felt impossible becomes available. In this way, healing the inner child is not about endlessly revisiting the pain or getting stuck in old wounds. It is about integration. It is about retrieving the part of you that has always been present, always influencing, and bringing them into harmony with who you are now. You are not dragging the past into the present. You are transforming the past within the present. Think of a musical chord. If one note is out of tune, the whole chord sounds harsh. But when you bring that one note into alignment, the harmony is restored. Your inner child is that note. They have always been playing beneath the surface, sometimes in discord. When you tune them with compassion, the entire symphony of your life resonates differently. This is why you may notice that when you begin to work with your inner child, your outer world starts to shift. People treat you differently. Opportunities appear. The same old triggers lose their power. It isn't magic in the sense of superstition. It is the natural effect of frequency. Change the vibration at the root, and everything that grows from it changes. And here's something even deeper. Your inner child carries not only your own stories, but often the unhealed stories of generations before you, the fears of your ancestors, the survival strategies of your parents, the silences of your family. They often live within that younger self. When you embrace them, you are not just healing your own timeline. You are interrupting patterns that could have stretched far into the future. You become the point where the cycle ends. From this perspective, meeting your inner child is not indulgence. It is sacred work. It is quantum work. You are shifting not only your personal narrative, but also the collective field you belong to. Every time you soothe that child with love, you send a ripple through the larger web of human consciousness. making it just a little easier for someone else to do the same. So the next time you feel trapped by old habits or overwhelmed by a reaction that seems larger than the situation, pause. Ask yourself, is this my younger self speaking? And then listen. Feel where they live in your body, the tightness, the heaviness, the ache. Don't judge it. Don't rush to fix it. Simply acknowledge, I see you. I hear you. I will not abandon you again. In that moment, you are collapsing the illusion of separation between past and present. You are living the quantum truth that time is not linear, that all versions of you exist here, now, in this field, and as you embrace them, you bring coherence to your entire system. This is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you always were before fear rewrote your story. It is about integrating the child who once believed they were not enough and showing them they always were. It is about living from wholeness, not fragmentation. And the beauty of this work is that it doesn't end with a single conversation. It becomes a relationship day by day. You learn to speak their language, to listen through sensation, to walk with them as your companion rather than your burden. And as that relationship deepens, so does your freedom. Because in the end, the quantum reality of the inner child is this: they are not gone. They never were. They are here, vibrating within you, longing not to be erased, but to be embraced. And when you open your arms to them, you are opening your arms to the wholeness of yourself. 5. Integration and healing. We are often told to let go of the past, as if the past were a heavy stone we can simply drop by the side of the road. But life doesn't work that way. The past is not something to abandon. It is something to bring home. Healing does not come from cutting parts of yourself off, but from gathering them back, one by one, and welcoming them into your present wholeness. When the child within you and the adult you are now finally stand together, side by side, something profound happens. The energy that was once divided becomes whole. The shame that kept you fragmented begins to dissolve. And in that coherence, new life begins to sprout. Creativity awakens. Love flows with less resistance. Opportunities seem to arise out of nowhere. It isn't magic. It's alignment. For years, many of us have tried to heal by rejecting, by trying to erase memories, to silence emotions, to prove that we are beyond our pain. But rejection only deepens the wound. Integration is different. Integration says, I see you. I accept you. You belong with me. That belonging is what heals. That belonging is what turns pain into wisdom, fear into strength, wounds into doorways. Imagine your inner world as a family. For so long, the child self may have been banished to a back room, crying quietly, while the adult tried to keep everything polished and presentable. Integration is the moment when you open that door, kneel down, and take that child's hand. You don't scold them for being scared. You don't tell them to toughen up. You say, I hear you. I will not leave you behind anymore. And suddenly, the family inside you feels whole again. From a quantum perspective, this act of integration is not just emotional comfort. It is an energetic recalibration. When parts of you are at war, your field is incoherent, broadcasting mixed signals into the universe. But when every part of you begins to harmonize, your field stabilizes. You stop attracting chaos and start drawing in experiences that match your inner peace. You stop repeating the same painful loops because the source of fragmentation inside you has been brought back into unity. Healing, then, is not about becoming someone new. It is about reclaiming who you always were. Before fear fractured you, it is about realizing that the child who once felt unworthy was never actually broken. They simply needed to be held, understood, and given the love they were missing. Integration can feel simple, almost deceptively so. It can look like sitting quietly with your hand on your heart, whispering to yourself, "I love you. You belong with me." It can look like allowing the tears you held back for decades to finally fall, not as weakness, but as release. It can look like giving yourself permission to rest when your body says it's tired. Instead of pushing through with old patterns of survival, these small acts are not insignificant. They are the daily practice of wholeness. And as you practice, you begin to notice subtle shifts. You no longer feel the same urgency to prove yourself. You no longer seek love in places that deny your truth. You begin to choose differently, not from fear, but from authenticity. That is integration in action. The child and the adult working together, finally on the same side. I want you to see how powerful this is. For decades, perhaps, you've carried the belief that you are behind, that you should be further along, that something in you is fundamentally wrong. But integration reveals the deeper truth: you were always whole. Even in the breaking, you were whole. Even in confusion, you were complete. And when you embrace that truth, life itself begins to mirror it back to you. Think of a garden. If one part of the soil is neglected, dry, and abandoned, the plants struggle to thrive. But when you tend to every corner, when you bring water and light to all of it, the entire garden flourishes. Integration is tending to the neglected corners of your soul. Healing is giving light to the places you once left in shadow. And as you do, the whole of your being begins to bloom. Integration is also the bridge between survival and creation. When you are fragmented, much of your energy is spent holding yourself together. But when you are whole, that energy is freed. It becomes available for creativity, for love, for joy, for expansion. The very power that once went into suppressing pain now fuels the birth of new possibilities. And perhaps the most beautiful part of integration is this: it doesn't erase your story. It honors it. You don't heal by pretending the pain never happened. You heal by allowing the pain to take its rightful place in your journey. As one chapter among many, you heal by realizing that the very struggles you once wished away are the same struggles that carved out your depth, your compassion, your strength. So, what does this mean for you now? It means you don't have to keep running from yourself. You don't have to wait until you feel fixed to be worthy of love or peace. You don't have to exile the parts of you that are tender, scared, or tired. You can bring them home. You can let them rest. And as you do, you begin to rest too. Integration is not a destination. It's a relationship, a lifelong practice of listening, welcoming, and honoring every part of you. Some days, it may feel easy. Other days, the old wounds may resurface, asking for another layer of care. That's not failure. That's the spiral of healing, drawing you deeper into wholeness. And if you take nothing else from this, let it be this: you don't need to abandon your past to heal. You need to bring it with you, to let it be seen, to let it be loved. When the child you once were and the adult you are now finally walk hand in hand, you step into a life where your energy is no longer divided. You step into coherence, and from coherence, everything becomes possible. 6. The connection between present choices and future realities. Every choice you make carries more weight than you may realize. Each Decision, even the small ones, is not just a step forward in time. It is a frequency you broadcast, a ripple you send across the field of your own existence. The child within you feels it. The future versions of you feel it too. In the quantum landscape of consciousness, past, present, and future are not as separate as we've been taught. They are threads of one fabric, woven together through the vibration of your choices. Think of your life as a vast tree with countless branches. Every decision you make is like choosing which branch to step onto. Some branches are heavy with fear, others with love. Some lead to more contraction, others to expansion. Each choice shifts the shape of the tree. not only for the person you are now, but for every version of you that exists across time. The child inside you, the one who still remembers the fear of being unseen or unloved, feels the vibration of your choices. When you choose from love, love for yourself, love for life, love for others, you are not only changing your present experience, you are sending a message back in time to that child. See, we made it. We are safe now. We are choosing differently. And that child relaxes. Their frequency begins to soften. Their fear begins to unwind. At the same time, every choice sends ripples forward into the countless versions of your future self. When you choose kindness over bitterness, courage over avoidance, compassion over judgment, you open pathways that may have been invisible before. Futures that were once closed off begin to glow with possibility. It is as though the universe responds not to what you think you deserve, but to the frequency you choose to embody right now. From a quantum perspective, this makes perfect sense. Observation creates reality. Attention collapses possibilities into form. So when you make a choice, especially one rooted in love, you are collapsing a whole set of possibilities into being, not just for your current self, but across your timeline. This is why choices feel so alive. They are not just logical calculations, they are energetic declarations. Every time you say yes or no, every time you extend grace or withhold it, you are tuning your field. You are sculpting the architecture of your life, moment by moment, breath by breath. I know it can feel overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like your past decisions are haunting you, shaping your present in ways you can't undo. But here is the deeper truth: when you choose differently today, you are not only creating a new future, you are also reshaping the meaning of the past. The child who once believed they had to fight to be worthy suddenly receives the signal that they were always worthy. Because here you are, choosing love. The past bends, not by erasing it, but by giving it new context. This is why healing is never just about what lies ahead. It is about returning to the younger self and whispering through your choices, you were never alone. You were never broken. Look at how we choose now. In this way, your present becomes a bridge. Your compassion flows backward as reassurance and forward as guidance. Let's bring this into something simple, something practical. Imagine you are standing in a moment of tension, maybe with a loved one, maybe within yourself. You have two options: to react from old wounds or to respond from presence. If you react, you repeat the past. You reinforce the frequency of fear or anger that the child within you once absorbed. But if you pause, breathe, and choose from love, you send a new signal. You tell your body, your inner child, and even your future self, we are no longer bound to the old story. We can choose again. And the remarkable thing, the moment you choose love, you feel it instantly, not as a distant reward, but as an immediate shift. Your chest softens, your mind clears, the heaviness lightens, because love is not just an outcome, it is the frequency of the path itself. It's important to remember that choosing love doesn't mean denying pain. It doesn't mean pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It means standing in the truth of the moment and allowing compassion to guide your next step. Sometimes, love looks like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like simply being gentle with yourself when you fall short. Love always adapts, but its frequency is constant expansion, not contraction. And as you keep choosing it, you notice how your life reorganizes. The relationships that once drained you begin to lose their hold. New connections arise that feel lighter, freer, truer. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. And within, the younger self, who once trembled, begins to feel safer, more seen, more integrated. This is what it means to live as a co-creator of your reality. Not in the sense of controlling every detail, but in the sense of aligning your field with the frequency you want to live in. Each choice is like striking a note. The more you choose from love, the more the whole song of your life begins to resonate in harmony. So I invite you now to reflect what choice is before you today. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It may be as simple as choosing patience instead of frustration, presence instead of distraction, self-kindness instead of self-criticism. Whatever it is, know that this choice is not small. It is shaping the branch of your tree, the ripple of your field, the story your younger self and your future self both inhabit. And when the old voice rises up, the one that says, "You're not enough. You'll never change," pause. Place your hand on your heart, breathe, and choose differently. Because in that moment, you are not only changing your life today, you are sending healing backward and hope forward. You are proving to every version of yourself that love was always possible, and it is possible now. 7. The ripple effect. Healing is never just about you. It may begin within the quiet corners of your own heart, but its effects travel outward, like ripples across a still pond. When you choose to reconcile with yourself, when you bring your inner child into your embrace, you are not only softening your own pain, you are also loosening invisible threads that have been passed down through generations. Think about it. The fears of your grandparents, the anxieties of your parents, the survival strategies of your ancestors. All of these subtle imprints live in your body. They shape the way you react, the way you protect yourself, the way you sometimes repeat patterns you swore you would never repeat. It is not because you are flawed, but because you are carrying frequencies that were handed down long before you had the power to question them. When you heal, when you choose compassion instead of shame, you are cutting those threads. You are interrupting the repetition. You become what I call the breaker of the circuit, the one who says, "It ends here. This fear will not travel further. This silence will not be passed on. This pain stops with me." And that act is sacred. It is not only personal but collective, because every time you dissolve shame within yourself, you make it easier for those around you to dissolve theirs. Every time you give love to your inner child, you create permission for others to do the same. Your healing becomes a beacon, an unspoken invitation that whispers, "It's safe. You can face it too. You can be free." This ripple effect is not theoretical. You can feel it in your relationships. As you soften inside, the people around you respond differently. Conversations shift. Old conflicts lose their edge. The same arguments no longer find fuel because you're no longer feeding them with hidden shame or fear. What once was a battlefield becomes neutral ground, simply because you stop fighting with yourself. And it goes beyond the family you see. Energetically, your work reaches back and forward. It soothes the restless stories of your ancestors, and it clears pathways for the ones who will come after you. Children born into your field inherit more space, more safety, more possibility. Simply because you chose to heal. They don't carry the same weight, because you chose to put it down. That is legacy. That is love stretched across time. I know it can feel almost too large to believe. How could your personal healing affect humanity? But look closer. Every movement of culture began with a few people willing to live differently. Every shift in consciousness began with a ripple. When you heal, you raise your frequency, and frequencies resonate. Others tune to you, just as one singing bowl vibrates when another nearby is struck. Wholeness spreads. This is why your healing matters more than you realize. It is not selfish. It is service. By facing your pain instead of passing it on, you lighten the field for everyone. By choosing presence instead of avoidance, you anchor a new way of being that others can sense, even if they don't have words for it. Let me give you an image. Imagine a candle lit in a dark room. That single flame cannot erase the shadows, but it creates a circle of light where others can gather, where they feel less alone, where they can see just enough to take a step forward. Your healing is that candle. and as more candles are lit, the room itself changes. The darkness does not fight, it simply retreats. In this way, your personal work becomes global work. The more of us who integrate, who choose compassion over self-rejection, the more we create a collective field where healing is normal, where authenticity is safe, where love is not something to earn, but something to remember. This is the revolution that doesn't happen in governments or institutions first. It happens in hearts. It happens in homes. It happens every time someone like you chooses to meet their younger self with kindness instead of criticism. And the beauty is, you don't have to do it perfectly. Even the smallest act of self-compassion creates a ripple. Even a single breath where you choose gentleness instead of judgment adds coherence to the field. Healing is not a dramatic one-time event. It is a daily practice of choosing again, of returning to presence, of softening into love. When you see it this way, you realize that your life is bigger than your own story. Your integration is part of a larger unfolding, part of a wave of consciousness that is rising across humanity. The fear of your grandmother becomes less. The silence of your father begins to loosen. The anxiety of your mother starts to dissolve, and the children who come after you, whether they are your own or simply the next generation of humanity, inherit a field that is lighter, clearer, freer. So, when you sit with your inner child, when you whisper, "I will not abandon you," and feel your chest soften, you know this. You are not only healing yourself, you are healing the lineage behind you and the field around you. You are planting seeds of love in soil that once carried only fear, and those seeds will grow, even if you never live to see the full harvest. This is the ripple effect. This is the quiet revolution, and it begins with you, here, now, in this very breath. So, if you doubt whether your healing matters, let me remind you, it matters more than you will ever know. You are not just mending your own heart, you are changing the story for countless others. You are becoming the living proof that wholeness is possible, that pain does not have the final word, and that love, always, is the strongest frequency, the return to wholeness. Perfection was never the point. The truth is far simpler, far softer. You have always been enough, even in the cracks, even in the places you thought disqualified you from love. Your younger self never demanded that you become some untouchable version of a superhero. All they ever wanted was to be held, to be acknowledged, to be welcomed home. And today, in this very moment, as you turn back toward them with open arms, you are performing the quietest and most extraordinary miracle. You are becoming whole again. Not whole because the pain is gone, but whole because you are no longer divided against yourself. That is the true quantum leap, not an escape from life, but a step fully into life as it is, into the richness of being human with all its colors, all its shadows, all its light. Take a breath with me now. Inhale gently, and as you exhale, whisper to yourself, "I see you. I welcome you home." These words may feel simple, but they carry power. They are not just sounds. They are frequencies, signals to the universe that you are ready to live honestly, to love fully, to stop striving for some polished version of yourself, and instead, rest in your inherent completeness. This is what the journey has been leading to, not the construction of a new self, but the unveiling of the self that has always been here, the one who walked through fire and still remained tender, the one who cried in silence but kept going anyway, the one who carries scars, not as proof of failure but as evidence of survival. This self is not broken. This self is not behind. This self is already whole. When you truly allow this truth to land, something ancient inside of you relaxes. The endless striving, the constant proving, the exhausting performance of being good enough begins to dissolve completely. You realize that the race you thought you were running was never real. There is nowhere to arrive. no finish line, that will finally grant you worth. Worth was woven into you from the beginning. It was never at risk. And in this realization, you discover a new way of living. You stop needing to earn love and start embodying it. You stop grasping for belonging and realize you already belong here. In your body, in your life, in this very breath. From that place of belonging, you can create, connect, and contribute not from fear of being left out, but from the joy of being fully in. This shift, subtle as it seems, changes everything. It changes how you relate to others, because you no longer demand that they fill the gaps inside you. It changes how you walk through challenges, because you no longer see them as evidence of failure, but as invitations to deepen. It changes how you look at yourself in the mirror, because instead of searching for flaws, you see the face of someone who never gave up, someone who carried the younger self all this way, someone who deserves tenderness simply for existing. This is the quiet revolution, not becoming someone new, but finally becoming yourself, not transcending your humanity, but embracing it fully. And as you do, you begin to notice something. Life meets you differently. The opportunities, the relationships, the synchronicities that flow into your path are no longer distorted by shame or fear. They are reflections of the wholeness you now embody. And so, as you close your eyes tonight, or rise to meet a new day tomorrow, remember this: your task is not to fix yourself, but to love yourself into coherence. Your work is not to erase the past, but to bring it home with compassion. Your purpose is not to achieve perfection, but to live authentically, to allow yourself to be human, messy, radiant, incomplete, and yet utterly complete. Every time you whisper, "I see you," I welcome you home. You are making a choice. You are choosing wholeness over fragmentation, love over fear, presence over performance. And the universe responds. Doors open, peace grows. The child within you finally rests. So take this with you now. You are not unfinished. You are not waiting to be worthy. You are not a problem that needs to be solved. You are the answer your younger self was waiting for. You are the home they long to return to. And by embracing them, by embracing yourself, you step into the fullness of life that was always meant to be yours. This is the miracle. Not that you escaped struggle, but that you carried it with grace. Not that you became flawless, but that you became real. Not that you rose above your humanity, but that you let it be sacred. And in this return to wholeness, you discover what the child inside you always knew, that you were never too much, never too broken, never too late. You were always love, you were always light, and you were always home.